Evening all. Just a brief introduction to this one. When I was a kid, I was an avid angler. Not the kind of stuff you see today where guys go out, set up 3 identical rods in 3 identical rests, bait them with tasty morsels, cast them out, set their bite detectors and go back into their tent, sleep there all night after a few pints, waiting for a bite detector to go off. No, it wasn't that kind of stuff. I used to go to the Yorkshire rivers in my waders and try to float down the stream with my centre pin reel, and I had some great days there. It was always a mystery, you know, when that float dipped, that you'd no idea what you were going to catch. You know, it just covered all the water as it went downstream. Anyway, at the same time, I subscribed to a weekly newspaper, if you like. It was called the Angling Times, and I read every single word probably 2-3 times a week, and every year without fail they'd have a page or 2 pages dedicated to newcomers to angling, and they'd show them the simple ways of how to set up a rod, how to attach the reel, how to thread the line through the eyes of the rod, and even down to putting a float on, baiting it up, using, and it was now, us old timers at the time thought this was boring stuff, but on reflection, in angling, there's newcomers come along every single day, and short of having to go to an angler nearby and have them explain to them how to set up a fishing rod, which must be damned embarrassing for them, it was all explained in detail every year, because newcomers are coming along all the time. And that's the same with keeping koi. Anyway, that's just the preamble for tonight. I'll try and cover 2 subjects tonight. If you find them old hat, then disregard them, because this is basically aimed at newcomers who are coming into the koi keeping hobby. Although I had a store, a big store called Infiltration, and it ran for over 25 years. A pretty good time was had there. Well, I certainly had a good time there. Anyway, I think it was the early 1980s when someone in Japan, not a koi breeder, but someone in Japan mentioned to me the importance of owning and being able to use a microscope in order to detect koi-related parasites. Now, it's not immediately as simple as that, because you've got to know the parasites you're looking at, and with koi, the vast majority of parasites that infest the koi are microscopic. There's only about 2 or 3 that you can see with the naked eye. So in order to determine the actual parasite, because there's different cures required for different parasites, so it's not as easy as that. There's not a magic one-off cure for all parasites you find under your microscope. But having got over that hump, yeah, a microscope was one of the most important parts of my equipment. There was hardly a day went by at infiltration where we would rigidly take mucus scrapes to analyse under a microscope, when one of the guys would say, "Oh, we've got trichodina in such and such a pond." So it was a course of day. Parasites were always around then. I don't know why that was. Probably it was that new koi were coming in as older koi were going out. I don't know. I don't really know. But what I do know is, in recent years, with the koi in my pond, I can't remember the last time I found parasites. Now, eradicating parasites has nothing to do with the filter system. But I do flush my bottom drains to waste daily. In my case, it's because the water I flush to waste daily is replaced by new water, so it's really a water change at the same time. Anyway, I have this feeling, I don't know for sure, but because I've experienced so few parasites that it's hardly worth mentioning over the past few years, I reckon it has something to do with the very slow flow rate I'm putting into my filter from the bottom drains, whereby parasites and unhatched eggs from parasites could be taken into the drain lines. And when I flush them, most of them should be taken to waste. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but that's what I've found over the past few years. Obviously, high stocking rates in ponds enable parasites to reproduce much more quickly than they reproduce in ponds with lower stocking rates. I mean, that's obvious. So that's trying to put the parasites out of the picture at the moment. But the next one is salt. Which is also used by many in ponds and quarantine systems and things like that. Strangely enough, wild carp and parasites thrive in brackish water near estuaries and things like that. And I've yet to eradicate any koi parasite with salt, although many still disagree with me. The only time I use salt in a koi pond is to destroy blanket weed, and I use 3 kilos of salt per 220 gallons or 1 ton of water to do this. On another tack, humans are prescribed salt baths to effect a cure on bed sores and the like. And that's because salt can be both a disinfectant and a healing agent. That's about all for tonight, and thanks for listening.